Hello everyone, what's going on? It's Waseem here again from Handsome Smiles, and today I'm going to be bringing you my top 5 fruity fragrances. So these are all fragrances which have a fruity aspect to them, and I'm going to be listing the names of the fragrances I'm going to be talking about in this video in my description below, as well as a link to my review of each of them as well. So my reviews will be more full length, more in depth, going into its scent profile, how it develops, etc. But in this video I'm just going to give a quick overview. So starting off at number 5 is a fragrance from the house of Rasasi, and that fragrance we're going to talk about is La Yuqawam. Now La Yuqawam, it focuses on the note of raspberry. This is often considered a clone of Tuscan leather from the house of Tom Ford from their private blend collection. However, I've listed La Yuqawam ahead of Tuscan leather in this list due to the note of raspberry being more prominent in La Yuqawam and having more of a fruitier edge. Tuscan leather for me is higher in terms of the leather and the smokiness from the olibanum, which is not as much in La Yuqawam. So La Yuqawam overall is a very sweet, powdery, and slightly warm, spicy scent with a backbone of leather. The main note in La Yuqawam for me is the raspberry. It adds a lot of sweetness into this fragrance, makes it really juicy, just gives it a lot of sweetness and fruitiness, and along with that, in the dry down you get some beautiful warm spices from the saffron, which adds a slight touch of Middle Eastern feel, and along with all of that you have that gorgeous leather giving that brilliant backbone. La Yuqawam in terms of performance is outstanding. I got about 8 to 10 hours of longevity, with projection being very strong, much stronger on my skin compared to Tuscan leather. In terms of seasons, I think it's suited to fall and winter, and in terms of occasions it's perfect for formal situations. So at number 5 is La Yuqawam from the house of Rasasi. At number 4 is a fragrance from the house of Diptyque, and this is called Philosykos. So Philosykos is possibly one of the best smelling fragrances I've ever smelled to date. It has this amazing wow factor. I remember the first time I smelled it, I actually gasped at how beautiful the scent is. It has one of the most beautiful opening and the most beautiful scent profiles of any fragrance I've ever tried. So Diptyque's Philosykos, it centers on the fruity note of fig, and the opening is this bright green fig leaf, which then develops on your skin, and then you get the fig fruitiness, and the fruitiness is what gives it that wow factor for me. It's like this sweet, slightly juicy fruitiness, and as the fragrance dries down it's then introduced to a sweet coconut as well as some gentle woods as well. Overall it's one of the most beautiful fragrances for the springtime. Whenever I smell this, the greenness, the fruitiness, the sweetness from the coconut as well as some gentle woods, it just reminds me of spring daytime. I think this is a perfect fragrance for spring daytimes, and it just conjures up that image of you walking through a field, through a forest of fruit trees on a hot sunny spring day when the sun is just belting out. In terms of performance, Philosykos gets a little bit of a negative rating due to the performance on my skin. It's an average performer, longevity of about 6 hours, which with projection being average for the first few hours and then being on the softer side after that. But it's quite a versatile scent due to its very pleasing scent profile, so it can be used for most occasions, but I'd reserve it for spring daytime. So at number 4 is Philosykos, which centers around the fruity note of fig. At number 3 is a fragrance which doesn't really need much introduction, but that is Aventus from the house of Creed, and this focuses on the fruity note of pineapple. So we won't need to talk about too much of this fragrance as it's been talked about to death, and you can see a much more detailed review from my description below. So Aventus is opens up on my skin really smoky and woody, incredibly powerful, and has a very masculine edge to it in the opening. It's very smoky, has like a slight tar-like quality as well. It's coming from the woody note of birch. But as the fragrance develops on my skin, I start getting more fruity aspects and becomes a little bit more sweeter. So in the heart, it's introduced to pineapple, blackcurrant, and the green apple. The opening few stages that has a slight sour quality as well, which I believe may be coming from that green apple. As the fragrance dries down on my skin, the smoky and woody aspect from the opening is still there, but it's a little bit more eased out on my skin, and the fruitiness and the sweetiness becomes more intense, and it becomes even more slightly sweeter in the dry down for me due to the note of the vanilla. In terms of performance, Aventus is beastly on my skin. I get 12 plus hours of longevity with really excellent projection. It fills up a room, and the sillage is incredible as well. I've been noticed plenty of times. It's one of my most complimented fragrances as well. Very pleasing, but as you know, it's a fragrance which gets talked about to death here on YouTube. In terms of seasons and occasions to wear, it's a very versatile fragrance. Can be worn year round. That's spring, summer, fall and winter. In terms of occasions, work, dates, formal, nights out, casual, you name it. This is a real Swiss Army knife of a scent. A beautiful masculine fragrance which centers around the note of pineapple at number 3. And number 2 is a fragrance from the house of Amouage, and that is Jubilation XXV. So this focuses on the fruity note of blackcurrant. So Jubilation XXV is one of my favourite fragrances from the house of Amouage, and not only does it center around the fruity note of blackcurrant, it also has other aspects to this scent as well. You get some woodiness from the oud, you get some spices, you get some smokiness from the opopinax as well. It's an incredibly regal fragrance which makes you feel like you're some sort of Arabian prince. You also get some sweetness from the honey. It's possibly one of my favourite fragrances to come out of the Middle Eastern region as well. In terms of performance, I get quite good performance on my skin. I get about 10 hours of longevity, with projection being very strong for the first 6 hours, and after that become a little bit more moderate. This is a perfect scent for fall and winter, and in terms of occasions, I feel this is best suited to formal. Like I've said, it's got that real regal quality. It's smoky, it's fruity, it's woody. It's got that lovely oud accord, that's lovely sweetness from the honey as well. It's a very complex fragrance with a lot of facets and a lot of layers. It's truly one of the gems from the house of Amouage. That's number 2, Jubilation XXV. And at number 1 is a fragrance from the house of Tom Ford, and that fragrance is Plum Japonais. So this focuses on the fruity note of plum. For me, Plum Japonais is probably one of the most pleasing and most accessible oud fragrances in the market, especially to the Western audience, and that's because of the fruity note of the plum. The plum in this, it starts off really watery, really juicy, and it starts becoming a little bit heavy into the dry down. The oud in this, for me, you're introduced to the woody oud, which comes into the heart and then stays until the dry down. However, the oud's always as a backing player. It's the backing note, just gives it that great base to the scent. The plum is definitely my my biggest on my skin, the most prominent aspect of this fragrance and the main note. You also get this lovely saffron note in the dry down as well, which gives it that warm Middle Eastern sort of warm spice as well. In terms of performance, Plum Japonais is brilliant on my skin. I get about 10 to 12 hours of longevity. Projection is very strong for the first 8 hours, which is incredible, and then it settles a little bit on your skin. In terms of seasons, this Plum Japonais is perfect for fall and winter as an evening time scent. For me, I feel like it's best worn as a formal scent as well as a nights out scent as well, and maybe can work as a date scent as well. So guys, those were my top 5 fruity fragrances. Please note down any other fruity fragrances for other people to check out as well in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, please do make sure to support me by giving this video a like, and make sure to subscribe as well for more future videos. Until next time, my friends, see you later.